Longhorn Nation, Sooner fans, welcome to the only podcast, the only podcast exclusively dedicated to covering the greatest rivalry in college football, the University of Oklahoma and the University of Texas. Kevin, Sooner Media Days. Today, we got to hear from BV. We got to hear from players. We are 31 days out as of the taping of this broadcast. 31 days out.
Man,
Are
I'm
you fired up?
Fired up. Let's get it. You can feel it, man.
Did you hear from Sark this week?
Heard from Sark today. Yes.
Did that instill confidence in you as a Sooner, as a Texas fan? Are you fired up? Does Sark got the troops rallied? Are you ready to roll?
I'm ready to roll, man. I'm ready to roll. We got questions, and we're going to talk about that.
Okay.
We've got questions. We both got questions now.
My favorite thing to do in the weeks leading up, in the weeks during training camp and two-a-days and all of that stuff are the YouTube videos that get posted of dudes making, like when CeeDee Lamb would make just crazy plays in training camp. I would get so fired up. But my favorite is the Oklahoma drill.
Oh, yeah, man. It gets you. You just want to be out there. It makes you want to get out there.
Oklahoma football players doing the actual Oklahoma drill.
Yeah.
Mano a mano. It is fantastic. There's nothing better. And it gets you so fired up. At least it does me. Does Texas do the Oklahoma drill?
They do the Oklahoma drill. I don't know if they call it the Oklahoma drill, but they do some sort of. I imagine they do. Honestly, I don't know. I got to hit up a former player and be like, hey, what do y'all call this?
What do you call man on man, good on good, and then shed the blocker and tackle the ball carrier? Because that's the Oklahoma drill.
Yeah.
Which brings me up, I hate to mention Lincoln Riley so early in the podcast, but he actually discussed the likelihood that under his coaching, there would be a time in the future when they wouldn't do the Oklahoma drill.
Why? Because
he's a weak ass. Things I can't say on a podcast that are sponsored by Brown O'Haver. He's the worst. It's weak, Kevin. It's football. Dudes have to hit dudes. Am I missing something?
No, you got to hit him in practice if you want to be prepared to hit him in the game, right?
What was the number one complaint or maybe not a complaint from Texas fan? What was the number one observation from Texas fan Oklahoma, or the number one complaint from OU fan about Oklahoma? We were weak. We were cream puffs. We weren't tough. It's because your head coach didn't want to do the Oklahoma drill in training camp. I just figured it out.
Have you confirmed that Brent Venables will be running the Oklahoma drill?
Have you seen him talk?
Yeah, I've seen him talk. Have
you seen his defenses play?
I have seen his defensive play for years.
Did you see him play? Did you see any clips of him being a madman at K-State playing football?
I've never seen him play, but I imagine him. He's super.
I never have either, but I can only imagine that man is going to run the Oklahoma drill in practice. And those videos are going to come out on YouTube here in about a couple weeks, and I'm going to be fired the you-know-what up. Yeah. I'm already fired up thinking about it.
Let's go. Let's get it.
Lincoln Riley, what a wuss. I was in California, which is why we've been so delayed on doing this 9th episode of the Bevo Podcast. And what I determined in Southern California is that it's amazing.
Yes. We talked about this in the last episode. San Diego, best city ever.
But since then, I've experienced it. I lived it for a week. Kevin, you ready for this? From somebody, as we're both from living in Oklahoma, today is 104, and we grew up in San Antonio, Texas together.
Right.
Not together, but in San Antonio. There was no air conditioning on my condo. And it freaked me the freak out. When I walked in, I was like, wait a minute.
You look for the thermostat. Where's the thermostat at?
What's the first thing you do when you go on vacation?
Look for the thermostat. Got to turn the AC on. Crank it all the way down.
It's free air. It is free. You crank that down when you live in Texas, you live in Oklahoma, my wife lives in Phoenix. You crank it down because it's free for a week or 3 days or however long you're going to be there, you want icicles hanging down.
No doubt.
And I was like, this is messed up. I can't believe this. And then you open up a window and the beach air blows off the Pacific Ocean and you're sleeping at a comfortable 67 degrees and you're like, my God, this is perfect. But beyond that, it made me think that this is why this is like a double-sided coin, all right? But the first side of the coin is this is why there are so many great athletes from the state of California.
Yeah.
Because they can practice and train year-round, outdoors, in perfect conditions. And so if we talk about training for football, who wants to go outside and run routes when it's 104 degrees?
Absolutely no one.
And maybe Jerry Rice did it in Mississippi and he's the reason he's the greatest ever. But for the most part, it's really hard to want to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't blame a kid or anybody for doing it. Same thing as a golfer or tennis player. Or my daughters play soccer. I mean, my daughter's at soccer practice right now, and I'm like thinking to myself, does she have enough water? Does she have enough this? Is she gonna? There's a concern. Is that my 11-year-old might die at soccer practice because it's 104? They don't have those same concerns in California.
No.
It's year-round practice, and it has an environment of creating very high-level athletes.
Absolutely.
However, the flip side of that, Kevin Miller, is that it also creates an apathetic culture of people that have way more better things to do than play sports.
Yes. Or out there watch sports, or.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, everybody wants to talk about the LA market for USC and UCLA to go to the Big Ten. I don't know. If I had my choice of watching UCLA play Oregon State or, in the case of the Big Ten, play Purdue or go to the beach, it's a good chance I'm going to the beach, man.
Well, we've seen this historically with USC, right? LA, when they're good, LA's all behind them. But if they're not, we'll just go to the beach. We'll just go do this. Yeah. They've got to be good.
Look, if Lincoln Riley had come out on his press conference and said, I'm moving to California because it is 65 at night and 82 during the day, and walked out of the room, I'd be like,
okay.
Yeah, you got it. Fair enough. Yeah. But to cry, and this was the hardest decision I ever made, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, he's a weekend. Okay. Kevin, on this episode, we are going to be talking top storylines from each of our preseason camps. Okay?
Yeah.
We are going to each go in order from the number 3 most interesting to the number 1 most interesting for each school. We'll talk about that and have some debate. And I'm looking forward to it because I think this camp is really you could make that case that every camp is pivotal, but I think, where Sark is coming off 5-7, where Oklahoma is with new changes at coaching and quarterback, there is a lot riding on these camps and how both these schools are going to enter the season. So I'm excited about it.
A lot of unknowns.
But as Julie Chen says on Big Brother, but first, we have to thank our sponsor.
Yes.
Brown O'Haver. Kevin works for Brown O'Haver. I work for Brown O'Haver. Brown O'Haver works for the insured, not the insurance company. If you've had a loss at your home, your business, you're fighting with the insurance company, call Brown O'Haver, 405-735-5510. Check us out on Facebook. We get clients paid more money. It's that simple. For those listening in the Norman and Oklahoma City area, you've heard me on the radio with Toby Rowland for 6 or 7 years now. You've heard Jim Traber with the Sports Animal talk about us. We've been around for 15, 16 years here in Oklahoma, helping folks get paid more. For those listening in the Texas area or around the nation, we are licensed in over 30 states. If we can't help you, we know somebody that can. If you are getting hosed by your insurance company, and Kevin, they probably are.
Absolutely.
Call us, 405-735-5510. Let us help. Let us get you more money. Talk to Kevin. You don't want to talk to me because I'm obnoxious and I yell at Kevin and I speak over him and I get too excited about Oklahoma drills? Call Kevin Miller,
Call me. We'll get you taken care of.
Nicest guy in the office, 100%. Kevin, 3 storylines from camp. Starting with 1 or 2 that didn't make the list.
Let's hear it.
Go. You have 1 or 2 that didn't make your list.
All right. That didn't make the list is the depth in the secondary.
Wow.
Yeah.
Texas, historically known as DBU.
Correct. They've got some moving parts. Okay. They got a couple guys who moved from corner to safety. So we got some moving parts there. I'm just curious to see how it all fits together.
What year are those guys moving? Are they sophomores, juniors? Or they got some playing time behind them?
Yeah, they do. 1 junior and 1 senior. Actually.
Okay. So you got some mature players. You got some mature players.
Correct. But, we need guys to step up and make some plays.
All right. How about the secondary coach? Any change there? Or is this going to be the same? So they're not learning a new system.
No,
just
no
changing
new system.
positions. And the depth behind them is at this point, a little unknown.
It's a little thin. Correct.
Okay.
We've got some talented young guys, but they're unproven.
Anything else that didn't make the list?
That was the only thing I had that didn't make the list.
My didn't make the list, and this is unusual, I think, for Oklahoma because of how pivotal the quarterback position has been. But the quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, is not making my list.
Really?
Top 3 storylines from camp because he's going to be the quarterback.
Yeah.
Right? There's no battle there. For OU fan, we've spent months now talking about his performance. Yes, there's going to be the gap. Is he better than Caleb Williams? What does he bring to the table? Leadership, all those things. They can be discussed, and they will be over time. But as far as the top 3, I don't think it makes it. The other one I got, along the same line of thinking, is the Oklahoma offensive changes. We are going from from a coach that has been roundly acclaimed the greatest offensive coordinator in college football to Jeff Lebby, who's a pretty good offensive coordinator. Systems are different. I still don't think it makes my top 3. I don't think it makes my top 3. And I'll tell you why. Because I think it's going to be anticlimactic because I don't think our offense was that good this year, and I don't think we have nowhere to go but up.
Fair enough. It was a little inconsistent compared to the lofty standards that Lincoln Riley had set over his first few years as offensive coordinator and head coach. So, yeah.
We beat up Lincoln Riley, and we'll continue to do so. But, Kevin, he had the preseason Heisman favorite have to get benched by the 5th game of the year.
Yeah.
He only scored 16 points on Nebraska. He only scored 16 points on West Virginia at home. The offense wasn't any good. Everybody talks about the defense giving it up. Everybody talks about he had to throw another quarterback in. And anyway, we've all been see Greatest Games, episode 6, I think it was, when we talk about 2021. Because offensively, there's reasons why those aren't linked. You can't give Lincoln Riley a ton of credit on that. There's other reasons you can. The play calling to Kennedy Brooks were fantastic. Okay, storyline number 3 for the University of Texas fall camp.
Okay. Can they close out games? Has this team gotten mentally tough enough to close out opponents when they have leads into the 3rd and 4th quarter? Okay. We saw this in the Cotton Bowl, first and foremost, right? Blowing a huge lead. This is to take nothing away from any of the opponents and what they did. But when you're up that big against your rival or against anyone, you cannot lose a game like that.
Okay, how many games last year did you lose in that fashion? You lost 7 games. How many games did you have leads in the second half?
Okay, Oklahoma State the next week, and Baylor. Back to back to back. Those are the 3 biggest ones. And those are the best 3 teams on the schedule, literally, right?
Yeah.
Back to back to back, had leads in the second half against all 3. And
what about the other 4 games you lost to? Did you have second half leads in those games?
Okay, not against Arkansas. That game was never close.
Okay.
The West Virginia game, I think they may have had a small lead in that, but that was always
back and forth.
There was always a close game, yeah. And
Okay.
Iowa State, they were really never in that one either, from an offensive standpoint. They had a lead.
What about that? What about you left off the Kansas game, Kevin? What happened in the Kansas game?
I have absolutely no idea. Well, we're going to get to what happened in the Kansas game.
Sure.
Okay.
We'll
get to that.
So what do you think needs to change? Like, what do you want to see coming out of camp? What do you see in the first couple of weeks that says, man, I mean, because you're playing Alabama, that's going to be a tough one to look at. But what do you want to see on the field that indicates a change in a positive direction?
Well, it seemed like last year with Sark, with his play calling, as good as it was, right? We've seen what his schemes can do, right? The beginning of the OU game, we saw it also the first half against Oklahoma State and against Baylor. But it seems like he doesn't do a great job, or at least he didn't last year, do a great job of making second half adjustments. Okay, it was like the same game plan was brought into the second half. Obviously, the other team would make halftime adjustments, and we couldn't counter those adjustments with anything else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about that a lot with Lincoln Riley over the last 5 years. That is the same thing. You'd come out not in 2021, but the Georgia game as an example. We've talked about that Rose Bowl game.
Yeah,
I mean, he could make no wrong call in that first half.
It was brilliant. It was beautiful to watch.
And yet, in the second half, they knew everything that they were about to run at him. And you're right. It's like where's the adjustment? Where's that same level of creativity? Did you go into a shell? Did they make an adjustment? It's hard to determine that sometimes, but I mean clearly it's a real issue for Texas.
Yeah, 3 weeks in a row, especially. Yeah, 3 weeks in a row. I mean, and again, it's those 3 games. It literally defined the season.
Now,
and I think they were mentally toast after the Baylor loss.
Okay, knowing me the way you know me and the way our listeners know me after 8+ episodes, what do you think I would say is the number one thing they need to improve on if they're going to help hold a lead in the second half?
Well, they'd have to start playing some defense.
No. Run the dang ball. You've got I mean, he could be the best running back in the country.
I think he is the best running back in the country.
I'm not arguing that. I'm not arguing that. Somebody will emerge at Alabama or Michigan State or whatever. Yeah. But you have the potential to have the best running back in the country. Against OU last year, run the ball in the fourth quarter. I thought Casey Thompson was fine. It's not on him. It's not run the ball. The less time that the other team has is the less opportunity they have to score. It truly, I hope you never run the ball. I hope Bijan never touches it against Oklahoma. But my God, run that guy. He's a stud.
He is. He's very good.
All right. On that's a good transition. And maybe he comes up again. I don't know. I don't want to steal your thunder. But my number 3 one is the running backs. It's our running backs. Everybody, all of the pundits, all of the radio guys, all the local media has proclaimed Eric Gray as our number 1 guy.
Okay.
He averaged 5 yards a carry. It's not bad.
No.
He only had 2 touchdowns last year.
Yeah.
2. That to me does not sound like the number 1 quarterback at OU. I mean, running back at OU. It just doesn't. We got to be able to run the ball. Now, is that an indictment on the offensive line, Lincoln Riley, decisions made in the end zone? How good Kennedy Brooks was? Maybe. But Eric Gray ran the ball a lot. He had a lot of opportunities.
Do you feel like perhaps he's a better fit in Levy's offense than he was in Lincoln Riley's offense?
Well, I think anybody's a better fit in the 2022 offense versus the 2021 offense. How about that?
Okay.
If you wanted to throw out the 2018 offense to me or the 17 offense, then no. I mean, those were historic offenses with historic players, with dudes that are still playing in the NFL. But 2021 versus 2022, I think anybody's going to have the opportunity to thrive.
Yeah.
But I'm going to make an argument. I think the wild card. So we've got Eric Gray. Sooner fans want Marcus Major to be good so bad, dude. So bad.
Well, he's a local kid. I mean, he's shown some flashes. We've seen some glimpses of.
And you want him to be that guy. I feel like we would have known it by now. I
Okay.
hope I'm wrong. I really do. I hope I'm wrong. I'm rooting for Marcus Major. He in the last 2 years, he was 5.4 yards a carry. So
Okay.
he can tote it.
He can.
He's going to be there. We got the two freshmen, Javonte Barnes and Gavin Sawchuk. Javonte looked really good in the spring game. Freshmen always look good in the spring game, though. Sawchuk is a fall enrollee, so he just got onto camp. Everybody loves his speed. We'll see. The wild card for me is Bentavious Thompson, the transfer from UCF. The dude averaged over 6 yards a carry at UCF for 3 years and has 0 fumbles in his career.
Okay.
Which I just think is a tremendous stat for anybody that's run the ball that much.
It's a great stat. Let me ask you this. Do you think they will be a featured back, or do you think it'll be more of a kind of a committee type deal? And what would you like to see?
You might know how Levy's offense is run better than me. You're better at that, what he typically does. I would like to see by committee until one is established.
Okay.
And then I always liked it when Riley, and even before Riley, you kind of had a first through the third quarterback, and then you had a fourth quarter punishing back come in.
Yeah.
And I think Marcus Major could fit that bill. Maybe even Bentavious Thompson. Maybe he's the guy because his ball security looks pretty good.
Yeah.
But you're letting Eric Gray run around like crazy in the first 3 quarters. Maybe you're seeing Javonte Barnes spell him a little bit. But then in the fourth quarter, when you've got that lead and you've got to pound them and demoralize them and break them down, dude, maybe you're running out Marcus Major because he's a big kid. He can get the yards per carry, or maybe it's just Bentavious Thompson. That's my ideal. I'm not quite sure how Levy's gonna do it. What's he done? What did he do at Ole Miss?
I think he would use more of a feature back.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I know when Texas was running a similar offense when they had Sterling Gilbert as their offensive coordinator, they leaned on Deontay Foreman heavily. I mean, he's run 30 times a game, and it's a power deal, and it wears you out, and then they hit you with the play action over it. So I don't know if we'll see that. One thing about
Eric Gray's not that guy, though, is he?
No, absolutely. I don't think so. No, I think he's more of a 12 carry a game type guy. But what I'm curious to see is Lincoln Riley at his best. He was great at scheming plays based on the running back skill set.
100%.
The way he used Mixon and Rodney Anderson, it was brilliant. That's what made him known as the offensive guru.
Well, and that's what differentiated him from all the other spread teams. All the other Mike Leach. Yeah, is that he valued or at least we thought he valued the running game. The last 2 years, you didn't see that. Going back to this year, though, and this makeup, the names sound good, the measurables look good, but we just don't have a guy that you go, that's our dude, that's who we'll run with. Yeah. And so I hope somebody develops. I'm telling you, the Bentavious Thompson kid, transfers can do some amazing things.
Yeah.
Given a second lease on life. Clearly the guy knows what he's got. Gabriel trusts him. Levy's going to know what he's getting. I think he's the wild card. I'm rooting for Marcus Major. If Eric Gray ends up being the guy, it makes me almost concerned. I just don't think the ceiling is high enough with Eric Gray. But that's my running back storyline. Storyline number 2 for the University of Texas.
Okay. The quarterback spot, quarterback battle. Quinn Ewers and Hudson Card. Okay. Hudson Card was there last year. He won the job in fall camp last year over Casey Thompson, right? Did okay in the first game. Looked absolutely shell-shocked in Fayetteville against Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
He just looked, he wasn't ready. Yeah, he just looked like he just didn't belong out there yet.
Right.
Okay, so loses his job after that. Casey Thompson has it pretty much the rest of the season until he got hurt. And then Quinn Ewers, okay? Number 1 recruit in the country last year. Goes to Ohio State, doesn't play, transfers to Texas. Incredibly talented kid. For all the talk about Arch Manning, I personally think that Quinn Ewers is actually more talented than Arch Manning is. He doesn't have, the hype and build up. Yeah. Um, but is he ready?
Right.
What is he going to do? First of all, can he win the job? But
how has Sark treated this quarterback competition so far? How do you do it in the spring, and how is he doing it in the? Is it an open? Does he claim it's an open competition?
He claims it's an open competition, but he did say that he wants to name the starter sooner than he did last year, so that way whoever wins the job can get the most reps instead of them splitting 50-50 like they did for the majority of camp last year.
OU fan is always rooting for somebody. Who is Texas fan rooting for? Is there a consensus among Texas fan?
It's Quinn Ewers. Yeah, I think everybody. Yeah, I mean he's just too talented. You can't keep him. You can't keep him on the sidelines, man. I mean,
is there something to be said the fact that you've got who do you open with?
Louisiana Monroe.
Hey, if Alex, what is this guy? Graves, I think. I'm gonna have to look up his daughter's last name. My daughter's just played golf with a guy that played at Louisiana Monroe.
Really? Okay.
Yes, his name was Alex. I think it's Graves. I'll have to look up his daughter's last name. First of all, awesome. His daughter was a great golfer.
Okay.
Great golfer. He played at Louisiana Monroe where he met his wife, who played golf at Louisiana Monroe, and she's now the first tee director. Oh, you know what? I got their last name because I have her card. Hold on. Let me tell you. It is Graves. Blake, not Graves. Alex Blake, Monica Blake. Monica Blake is the first tee director at Little Rock.
There you go.
She's shaping the minds of young golfers in Little Rock, Arkansas, starting with her daughter, who is, like I said, she was like a really cool kid, kind of really like a silent assassin. It was pretty impressive to watch, actually. I don't think she even acknowledged my daughter's existence until the round was over.
Laser focusing.
After the round, she was like, I'm sorry. I didn't even realize you were playing with me. What was your name? That's how it was. It was. She was like a stone cold killer. The parents, incredibly friendly. So
there you go.
Alex, Monica, shout out to Louisiana Monroe. Anyway, you're playing Texas. Texas is playing Louisiana Monroe, and then you go right into Alabama week 2. Is there a thought that maybe Hudson Card is the sacrificial lamb against Alabama?
I've heard that. Some people have said that, but I don't think so. I think you just roll with the kid and just put him out there. If he's going to be the guy, let him be the guy. He's a more talented player.
Okay, first of all, he's played against good players, at least in practice, right? After, a camp in Ohio State, he will have, size and speed shouldn't freak him out. But my goodness, Alabama, second game, that's a lot.
It's a lot for anybody.
But you don't want Card to go out and just get beat to death either.
Exactly. And listen, there are 2 edge rushers, Will Anderson and Dallas Turner. Will Anderson will probably be a top 5 pick, and then Dallas Turner will probably be a top 5 pick next year. These guys are unbelievable.
I appreciate that it's a quarterback battle, but I think if you have any chance of winning, you're running Bijan Robinson right at those ends and neutralizing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Neutralizing. I mean, I know we'll talk about that in the preview, but if you want a chance to beat Alabama, you got to take it out of the quarterback's hands, and Bijan has to, and quick passes to Worthy and the other kid you got on the other side.
Yeah, and they are. Yeah, I mean, Sark's going to scheme up something, right?
Okay.
But I think it's going to be Ewers. I think it should be Ewers. I think he'll be named pretty soon.
That is going to be the game against Alabama is going to be fascinating to watch because you're not going to win the game. I mean, you might think you will. You're not going to win the game, but you can see glimpses of if a kid's a player or not in games like that.
Absolutely. Uh-huh.
You'll be able to tell if he's somebody that can, come to fight for you. So that's interesting. Okay, number 2 for me. It's our defense. Speed D is dead. Thank the good Lord.
Speed D had its moments. It had its moments, but it was never.
You know why it only had moments? Because he would rotate players in constantly. It was, Alex Grinch's philosophy that guys can only play 2 series at a time completely backfired because it just meant you were constantly spread out on talent on the field. You were diluting the talent on the field. And
listen, I went to the Tom Herman era who would have his whole receiving core come off after 2 series. So trust me, I understand.
And does it make sense, Kevin? It doesn't make sense.
No.
Good coaches play their best players.
Yes.
Good coaches play their best players. Perion Winfrey, who reportedly was a stud at the Senior Bowl, was also a stud for Oklahoma. But when you only play 45% of the snaps, you're only going to get 45% of the production.
Yes.
I don't know. Look, when it's hot, you want fresh legs, whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying as a standard, as a method, it never made any sense to me to just keep rotating players in. Whoever rotated linebackers in.
Yeah.
I mean, good linebackers play the whole game. You don't rotate out linebackers. Teddy Lehman didn't get rotated out. We talk about Teddy Lehman all the time.
Yeah, he can get a play. He get a couple plays here, right? He needs a rebound, but not for 2 or 3 series. Come on.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. So anyway, to see, for me, as the defense goes, the team will go, right? And I think it's really important to see what I think there's some talent there. I listed Billy Bowman. I listed Stutzman at linebacker, Reggie Grimes, Jalen Redmond. There's others. I think there is talent there. Is it Alabama level talent? I don't know. Ohio State level defensive talent? No,
it isn't. But that's not. I mean, there's only one or a couple of those teams. Georgia.
But there's some dudes that can play.
Yeah.
And now you've had some time under Schmitty, and you've got a new scheme, which apparently is a much more difficult scheme. I remember when I don't know how much of it has changed from when he was here, when Brent was here in the 2000s. It was a lot of zone blitzing, and there was a lot of that kind of, disguising and things of that nature. It wasn't a base defense by any means. So I'm curious to see how that's going to work. But to use Billy Bowman as the example, he played as a true freshman 3 different positions in the secondary last year.
Yeah.
That's hard to do.
Very hard to do.
Not only for a true freshman, but for you're talking. You mentioned it in yours. That's something you're looking at with your quarterbacks. Like they're changing one position, and they're juniors and seniors. You're talking about a true freshman that everybody agrees has enough talent to make it on the field. Why are we putting him in positions to fail?
Correct.
It doesn't make sense to me.
But let me ask you this real quick about Billy Bowman. Where is he playing this year? Is he playing safety?
Strong safety.
I think that's where he's best at. Or nickel.
I think he could play either of the safety positions, but with the schemes today, you don't know. A strong safety's dropping back and he's cut. Whatever.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
It's not the Roy Williams of 2000 strong safety.
Darren Woodson type big safeties. Yeah.
No, it's much more of a hybrid strong safety. I don't even know what we call it. But all that to be said, the idea is that he's going to play strong safety. Letting somebody with that talent concentrate on do your job, right? We always hear that on the NFL. Do your job.
Yeah.
Let him concentrate on one position, learn one role really well, and then play him so that he can learn in the course of play him 70 to 80% of the plays. I think we're setting up for a recipe for success. I hope Alex Grinch isn't as good as we can get.
No way. I mean, first of all, I don't know. Is Venables going to be calling the defense, or would that be Todd Bates?
He says it's going to be Todd Bates, but I'm going to have. I'll see when I believe it.
He might be calling the plays, but we all know this is going to be Venables' defense, right? And we've seen at Clemson, right, that he has the ability to scheme up on defense. And you know what I love about coaches? The best thing a coach can do is use a player to the best of his skill set.
Yes.
Whatever he does best, have him do. So I think he's going to put guys where they can be successful. If you're a good rusher, you're going to rush faster. If you're a linebacker, if you're good in coverage, you're going to be dropping in coverage. Look what he did with Isaiah Simmons. He's a 3-star linebacker out of Kansas City. uses him as a hybrid guy, edge. You're going to blitz here, you're going to drop here. He's a first round pick, top 5 pick, right? So, or top 10 pick.
He go to the Cardinals?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That's what I'm thinking. Okay.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. No, 100%. And so, actually, I went back and watched the 2012 OU Texas game while I was working out, just to kind of get me fired up. That was still a Brent Venables defense, right? 2012? I think it was. That might have been his last one.
So. Yeah, okay. Man, that
stifling. Right. With not big name talent. It was just a stifling defense.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Number 1 storyline coming out of Texas. Summer camp 2022. Kevin Miller.
The Texas Longhorn defense. The defense.
Wow.
They were historically.
Shocking.
Yeah, I know. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? They were historically bad. They couldn't. And it was all 3 levels. Okay. They struggled first and foremost with stopping the run. Okay. Then when teams would throw, they couldn't get pressure. And then they really couldn't cover either.
Yeah.
And you brought it up earlier, the Kansas game. Remember, they scored 50-plus points on offense. You can't lose, Yeah. And it's like everything they were doing was working. They couldn't cover. They couldn't tackle.
So what is going to change? Scheme, personnel, coaches?
Okay, well,
what is going to change for you to see what you want to see in the fall?
Okay, well, it's year 2 in the scheme, right? So that's what we don't know. Was the scheme maybe too complex for the players to really grasp it right away?
Okay. Does
the scheme suck? Right?
Now, where'd your coordinator come from?
From Washington, where he sent multiple players to the NFL. Multiple guys. They got guys all over the league.
I would take a dude from Washington versus Washington State.
Okay, fair enough.
So that's at least it's a little bit in y'all's favor. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, yeah. They play good defense. I think they're a top 20 defense usually while he was there. And again, guys all over the NFL, but whatever they were doing didn't work. Now, maybe he didn't have the right pieces for his scheme. Guys were playing a little out of position. But I'm still concerned because even with the portal, they added some guys, but they didn't add guys that can rush the passer. That's what I'm really concerned with. But maybe the scheme, second year in it, maybe the guys have gotten it down. Will we see any improvement? If they have a decent defense this year.
Who's the best player on your defense?
DeMarvion Overshown, the linebacker.
What a terrible name. What a terrible name.
It's a long name, especially the last name. Yeah,
that is a Longhorn name that
he is a dynamic athlete.
He's good.
Yeah, he's inconsistent. And here's the thing. He was a safety in high school. All right, he's a big time safety. But he was a big safety, 6'4", 220, primarily used as a blitzer, just a heat-seeking missile type player coming out of high school. Came in, first season, played as safety. He's had a lot of injuries too. He switched to linebacker, but again, he's had a few injuries that have cost him practice time to really learn the linebacker position. He's shown flashes in the OU game, had a sack on Rattler, picked off Rattler as well in the first half of that game. What we're hearing is that this year they're going to be using him as more of an edge player, using his speed to try to get to the quarterback.
Kind of more like a Nick Bonito or something like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you like that, or do you think that
I love it
in the middle? Oh,
no.
Okay.
Yeah. Because at his size, I don't like him taking on blocks. That's not what he's best at. So, I want to see. He's not the biggest guy. I think he's like 200. Last year, he's playing at maybe 220. So he was getting swallowed up by guards in the running game if you run right at him. So I'm excited about him to see how he does in that edge position and we need it because we cannot get pressure on the quarterback at all last year. It's the biggest weakness on the defense.
So Overshown's the name that I expected you to say. Who's the best player that I don't expect you to say?
Man, that's a good question. Honestly, he was the only player that I was even really impressed with
Okay.
last year.
So who do you have your eye on? Who are you hoping on? Who's the kid that OU has to hate next?
I'm hoping maybe Ryan Watts is a transfer out of Ohio State. He's a big corner. I think he's about 6'2", 6'3", one of those, physical press guys, but also has the ability to turn and run with receivers.
Was he just not getting playing time at OSU?
He played. He actually started 3 or 4 games. I think he maybe was a little homesick. I'm thinking. Okay. I'm not exactly sure why he transferred, but he did play a lot at Ohio State. Now, I don't know if he got passed up during the season, but I know the first few games he started for them last year. So,
your defense has to get better. I think it probably will, because that second year people just always feel more comfortable. And you talked about it when we talked about OU's defense, putting players in the right positions. After a year, good coaches have all the evidence they need of where they need to put their players. Like you should know where these guys need to go now. If your new corner can fill that gap, it has to help. You weren't good, so you expect to be better. You just have to be.
They have to be better, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, no one's expecting them to come out and be the, 05 Texas defense or the 03 Sooner defense, right? Because they don't have the horses for that. They don't have the talent, despite what people think about how Texas recruits. They just do not have that type of talent on defense right now.
Number one storyline for the University of Oklahoma's camp is the battle of perception, the battle of the national media perception of the Oklahoma Sooners and Brent Venables versus the local Sooner fan base expectations.
Okay, let me ask you this then before you get into that.
Okay.
What do you feel like is the national perception of the Oklahoma football program?
I've got 3 examples. The first one, and the most noted in Oklahoma Twitterverse and Oklahoma sports radio and Oklahoma message boards, is, of course, Colin Cowherd. He loves to speak to the end of OU as we know it, the decline of OU, how much USC is going to dominate, how much Lincoln Riley's leaving is going to hurt Oklahoma. I acknowledge that this is his shtick.
Yes, he's a troll. Oklahoma Sooners.
I acknowledge that the Baker deal, he didn't even believe half the crap he said about Baker, but it drew clicks and it drew views. And it's a feud, hat backwards come on. He doesn't even care about that stuff, but he knows what gets people to click on it. So I acknowledge that, but it's still there and it's still real. Another one, this is just something that happened the other day. Chris the Bear Felica, right, from Game Day on ESPN.
Yeah, uh-huh.
He went under the 9.5 win total at OU. I gotta tell you, that's fine. He used the idea that Oklahoma won like 7 or 8 games by 1 score. And are they going to be any better? They lost players on defense. They lost Lincoln Riley. They lost Caleb Williams. I got to tell you, that logic doesn't necessarily follow all the way through for me. Number one, everybody loses players on defense, right? I mean, that's not.
It's
lost players on defense is the most generic answer in the world when everybody loses players on defense. And if anything, their defense should improve based on the pedigree of the coach that they've hired to coach defense.
Yeah.
So defense should be at least an improvement. Okay. Number 2, you lose Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams. We talked about this. Statistically, Caleb Williams was a nice player, but he didn't push us over the edge in these 7-point wins, except in the Kansas game. He was, in fact, in a lot of cases, sometimes the reason we didn't extend those leads. And then the last thing is losing. I think we've upgraded at coach. I firmly believe that. I know that Brent Venables hasn't been a head coach, but I believe with the culture and the strategy that he's putting around the program, he's putting us in a better position to succeed than anything Lincoln Riley was doing for us. That's one. And the other one is just the Casey Smith girl from Barstool Sports. I I rarely say women are hot on a podcast because my wife listens.
Mm-hmm. You're actually Johnny. I think you're having a few technical issues right now.
Oh, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're just kind of breaking up a bit. It's kind of choppy right now. So,
what do you think? What should we do?
Hold on 1 second.
Can you pause this?
I don't know.
And I hate to go through this again.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a little bit better now. So you were saying Casey Smith, right, from Barstool Sports, right? So what does she have to say?
Well, first of all, she's kind of good looking, just for the record.
Okay.
I typically don't say that because I don't want to be that guy on sports radio that talks about how good looking women are. But she's good looking. She thinks that you're going to see a rise in USC and a degradation in OU's performance. And she's taken a lot of grief for it and all of this stuff. And maybe Oklahoma fans being too sensitive to this stuff, but I just don't think they're looking at the entire picture when they make those predictions. I think it's the easy take. Lincoln Riley leaves, OU down, USC up. And it's like, has anybody looked at the performance over the last 2 years? Has anybody seen the offensive stats, the offensive performance, any of that? It's all gone down.
Yeah.
The mystique is off the boy wonder. The mystique is gone.
Well, I don't nationally though, it isn't. I think from an OU standpoint it is. But I don't know about nationally.
Well, that is my point, right?
Yeah.
Is I think Oklahoma has opportunities to prove the national perception wrong.
Yeah.
If the offense has better production, which I think it's capable of, if they have better production than last year, that is a point towards what's the word I'm trying to say? To defunct the national perception, right?
Yeah.
If their defense operates at a higher level, that's another point in Brent Venables' favor. If they can win the games they're supposed to win on their schedule, which in this case is almost all of them, I think they could go 11-1 and get back to another Big 12 championship. I don't think that's unreasonable.
Okay.
I think that they can reestablish Oklahoma where it was under Lincoln Riley, which I don't know that Lincoln Riley ever earned it being there. So I just think that this kind of interplay back and forth between the national perception and what we as local OU fans are experiencing in terms of expectations is going to be fascinating as the season progresses. Because we lose one game, and it's going to be a gut punch to Oklahoma fan.
Yeah.
And it's going to be national pundits piling on to us unflinchingly.
Now, from an outside point of view, I do want to say that I do feel like the culture deal being better is absolutely legit.
Do you think it's real?
I do. Yeah, it seems like it's a little bit more of a togetherness with the program under Venables, but I think we all have to just wait and see how it goes, on the field, because, he's done all the right things. He's been an incredible coordinator, right, for a long time. And we'll have to see how it goes as a head coach.
I think there's the culture thing, Kevin, but I also think it's just something as basic as the conditioning, the strength and conditioning programs.
Okay.
I mean, the strength and conditioning programs are basically 180 degrees different than they were under Benny Wiley and Lincoln Riley at OU.
Okay. Now, how long was Wiley there? Was he just there 1 year, or how long?
No. He was there. I think Schmitty left pretty soon after Lincoln. I don't know that Schmitty was ever there fully under Lincoln, and if he was, it was only a year.
Who'd you have before that? Because there was somebody
before Schmidt. Nobody before.
No. Between, wasn't there somebody else between Schmitty and Benny Wiley? For some reason, I'm thinking so. There was. Okay.
Please, if somebody in the comments on wherever you're commenting or send us a note, because I don't think so. I think he went straight to Benny Wiley, and he had the Dallas Cowboys, but at the end of the day, he came from Texas Tech, and if what you're counting on is what worked at Tech to work at OU, Texas fan knows this. That's insane. That's the most backwards, logic that one can employ in a college football program is, hey, what worked at Tech? Let's do that. It's no, absolutely not. I'll take what worked at Oklahoma in the 2000s. I'll take what worked at Notre Dame. I'll take what worked at A&M to get them actually doing pretty good. And I'm going to take what worked at Clemson in terms of winning mentality and winning attitude and winning culture. All of that over anything that came from Texas Tech and anything that came from Lincoln Riley.
Fair enough.
All right, there we go. Kevin, one thing I forgot to mention, and we've got just a little bit of time. Oklahoma signed Colton Vasek, a 4-star wide receiver or a 4-star defensive player out of Austin Westlake. Wanted to take your comments on that, Kevin, please. Austin Vasek or Colton Vasek out of Austin.
Colton Vasek, Austin Westlake High School. It's an edge rusher. Texas signed the other edge rusher. They had 2 studs last year, Ethan Burke and Colton Vasek. Texas signed Burke. Texas wanted Vasek. Followed his recruitment for a while. He always seemed like a kid that was more than willing to leave Austin and just go and do his own thing. Oregon was involved for a long time, his recruitment. He always liked OU, though. He always liked Venables. Going back to Clemson, Clemson signed a quarterback, the Austin Westlake quarterback last year, a guy named Cade Klubnik. Okay. So they've been recruiting that school for a while. So he had a relationship with Venables when he was at Clemson. Always liked him. Venables goes to OU. They continue that relationship. Visited Texas a few times. Visited OU. Seemed to like it. Loved Oregon too. And he visited Texas. Texas had a pool party recruiting event just on Thursday. Vasek was there hanging out with Arch Manning. But, he decided OU is where he wanted to be. So, hey, props to the kid. Go where you want to go.
That you see that happening with those guys that grow up right there and want to get away. And
you do, yeah.
But what you don't really see it that often when they have a dad that played football at Texas.
That's the interesting thing, right? Yeah, dad played for Texas. He grew up in Austin. Just wanted to do his own thing. So, it's a gut punch, though, to Texas because it's a position of need. So you lose a position of need from right in your own backyard to your main rival. So it's an absolute gut punch.
Anything on that defensive line it's a must-have. And to lose a battle either way is it's brutal.
Real quick, though, I want to touch on this when it comes to recruiting. This is how it's going to be, right? We're going into the SEC. They're going to be these deep recruiting battles, and you're going to win some, and you're going to lose some. We're going to hit each other. We're all going to hit each other. This goes from Texas, OU, and A&M. Yeah. And then the rest of the SEC, it's going to be brutal when it comes to recruiting. So it's going to be a lot of these for both Texas and OU for the years to come.
I love it. And you know what? It's great to lose. It's great to be battling over 4- and 5-star guys. That's where the battle's taking place. We're not crying over a 3-star guy that we lost to, Texas Tech or K-State anymore. It's like guys that OU is in on, and Texas is in on. It's Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, Oklahoma, and Texas. We're in very good company. Oklahoma's up to 6th in 24/7's latest rankings.
You're going to see that's Texas A&M, A&M, and Oklahoma are all going to have likely going to finish with top 10 classes. We've never seen this.
That's exactly what I predicted. That's exactly what I predicted.
Okay, I remember somebody saying the sky was falling.
Everybody go back to episode 7, and you will see that I clearly predicted Oklahoma will finish with a top 5 class, and everything was fine.
Oh, yeah, go back and watch it. Yeah. So I remember you talking somebody off a ledge about OU recruiting. So you guys going to be fine.
Listen, I was on the ledge.
Yes.
And then Brent Venables in a red cape came and saved me.
There you go. And look, we've never seen this, though. I just want to touch on that. We've never seen OU, Texas, and Texas A&M recruit at this high of a level all at the same time. So the future is going to be crazy when it comes to it. We're going to be playing each other annually. So buckle up.
Please don't put A&M in our pod. Not because I don't want to play them, but I just don't want to play them because I can't stand them.
Same here, man. They're loaded. And the type of defensive players that they're signing, it's Alabama level, it's Georgia level defensive linemen that they've been signing.
I think Jimbo's a douche, but he did win it. He did win a national championship.
Correct.
He does know how to coach some kind of football.
Yes.
But I hope this is one of those scenarios where they get too big aheads from the NIL deals. That there's a culture issue. Something happens, because all that would make me happy is for A&M to fall on their face.
Yeah. Also, though, former OU commit and current USC commit Malachi Nelson, remember him?
Yes.
5-star kid out of California.
Absolutely.
He visited A&M this weekend.
Okay, so this is what college football does to you, right? It's like, I don't want A&M to get any better, but for USC to lose Malachi Nelson would make me one of the happiest people in the world. So I don't even know where. I mean, the conflict of emotions is I love it. I freaking love it.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, and that's what this is going to be. It's going to be a lot of drama.
Is that a real deal, or is he just trying to stay relevant?
I don't know. It would have to concern Lincoln Riley, right, for his top quarterback commit to go visit Texas A&M of all places. I can't see the kid leaving Southern California to go to College Station and to leave the potential plan for Lincoln Riley to play in Jimbo's offense, which is not. It's not Lincoln Riley's offense. It's not Sark's offense.
Yes, but if I'm Jimbo, and I've said it a lot on this podcast episode right here, I'm showing him the last 2 years production, saying, "What did he do with Spencer Rattler? What did he do?
Mm-hmm.
In 2 years? In 2 years, he had to bench him. Then, in addition to that, now I'm just saying this is what negative recruiting is, right? This is what I say if I'm Jimbo. And two, I hate A&M. I think they have an oversized, inflated view of themselves like no other program in the country. It's insane.
Correct.
And Texas fan most of all agrees with that take.
Oh, yeah.
But you get a Malachi Nelson and whatever he was experiencing at USC in terms of, you talk about culture, in terms of culture, but fan engagement, facility engagement, school engagement, and you take him to A&M and he goes to one freaking bonfire and one freaking game there, and it is a shock to the system compared to what he's going to experience at USC this year.
Correct. It's no comparison at all.
I mean, you can't tell. Dude, if he goes to a USC Stanford game, and it's going to be terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah.
He goes to an A&M Florida game, whoever they have on their schedule. It doesn't even matter who they have, dude. They go crazy for it. I'm just saying, I would love Lincoln Riley to lose his quarterback. I don't know that I necessarily want A&M to pick up another freaking dude, but
they've got dudes. I'm telling you, man. They're I don't know how it's gonna work out for them, because they still have to play Alabama every year. But I'm just saying, they're loading up.
It would make me giggle.
Yeah,
it would make me giggle. All right, hey, Kevin, this was awesome. For those out there listening, want to know what's coming next from Boomer Bevo. Kevin and I will be doing 2 more podcasts in the month of August. One is a season preview for Texas, and one will be a season preview for Oklahoma. We're going to go through the schedule. We're going to go through projected lineups. We're going to go through predictions, the whole thing, right? And it'll be dedicated to each team. And then, Kevin, we're going to be at game week.
Every week, in-depth previews.
So we will do we'll preview the game. We'll be on game week, and then following that, every Sunday we will be dropping an episode recapping and looking ahead. And I cannot wait. And so I hope for all those that are listening out there, subscribe, share it wherever you get it, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes.
Yes, and please give us a review, 5-star review if you would, please. We appreciate the love.
And shoot us some comments. Let us know how we're doing, what you want to hear more of. We're excited for football season to get here. Everything that we've done and content-wise has been to lay the groundwork of kind of where Kevin comes at football and where I come at football. And so this has all been done. We're going to have 10 episodes that have built up to this football season. Go back, listen. You don't have to listen to all of it, but listen to some of it. Find out where we're coming from, know what you're kind of getting into. And hopefully you like the product, and hopefully we hear from you. Kevin, are you ready for episode? No, it'll be 10? No, yeah, it'll be 10. Yeah. Episode 10 next week.
Yeah,
hey,
I'm ready.
Boomer,
Okay.